Hello, my name is LaShawn Swilling, and the title of my paper is Cultural Depictions and Cultural Biases from Media Sources. Um, my presentation is about how the media shows um, cultural elements and conveys biases on different cultures and subcultures. It began by referencing an article we read this semester that talked about the danger of a single story. It kind of connected with the article by saying that the media, because of its biases, tells single stories of cultural elements and diverse cultures. Also, in the intro, my project addressed um, how an American educator will indeed have a diverse classroom, and since this is the case, a teacher will need to know how to instruct students from various backgrounds. An educator should aim to get the students to be successful in academics and in building relationships with other students. The best way to do this is to achieve cross-cultural awareness, which isn't just knowledge of another culture, but it's also knowledge of one's own culturally influenced behavior. One way to find this is by looking at the media, because the media has a lot to do with this, because the media is a big way that culture influences our behavior. One aspect of American culture that the media depicts is body image. Um, in my paper, I discuss how various media resources often have these quote unquote perfect um, images of what people should look like, men, women, and children, of how they should look. And this has an impact on a subsequent impact on how people feel about themselves. Um, I referenced an article called "The Effect of Media on Body Satisfaction," and this was true for both genders. It in its research, it found that the ideal version, once a person either watched a movie of a quote unquote perfect person, or once they seen a picture of a perfect person, or once they seen um, an image on the internet of a quote unquote perfect person, they actually felt less satisfied with their own body image. And the research also found that this was even more true for women. In today's modern era, women, despite many obstacles, have ascended to the highest ranks in business and politics. And in my presentation, I would like to speak about how Sarah Palin and Hillary Clinton ran for vice president and president respectively. Um, Additionally, my project discussed how that despite the advancements that women have made to these high and lofty places, they are still objectified in the media. And there was a professor at this university in California that teaches a course about the African American woman, and she said she changed her class a lot when there was a radio host by the name of Don Imus made a very hurtful, just a harsh comment about this college basketball team that was mostly African American women. Um, And on a reference articles suggested that mistreatment, when the media mistreats people, and when the media mistreats people, it kind of leads to poor self-esteem, poor self-worth, and this kind of spirals down into settling for situations that a person would otherwise settle for. So, say, for example, a person A is feeling real down about themselves, so they'll pick a job that is below their standards, or they'll pick a spouse that is below their standards. And sometimes the spouses can be abusive, can be physically violent, or even mentally or verbally abusive. And so it said how it was talking about how, because of the media mistreats women, they have a poor self-image, and they end up settling for bad romantic relationships. A website revealed that 90% of all murder-suicides during its 6-month research were committed by men. In another article, research showed that when the media objectifies women, that the participants said they could more comfortably imagine themselves harming the women that were objectified. In some subtle, subconscious, psychological way, this article was basically saying that people have a tendency to more easily hurt an object than they would a person, and that's what objectification is all about. Taking away that human element of person. That's what the media is doing. And media in my presentation has been talked about its use for evil. A lot of people, a lot of the authors and people who own these media outlets or media sources have used the media for bad, but in some ways media can be used for good. Social media is one element of media that's been used for good. Social media has been used by African American men and women to kind of show their positive sides, that not all African American women are violent and argumentative and shallow like some of the reality shows and music videos. There is more to them than just their physical appearance and their ability to dance. So these social media outlets have been used to kind of show African American women in another light. They can be great moms, and they can be great in different careers. And also some men are being shown in positive light as well. Like, instead of them being always criminals or robbers or committing a murder, or being talked about as a murder victim in the media, they're talking about some of the men are good dads and that they educate and protect their families. Native Americans are another group that was portrayed negatively in the media. And the point that one of the articles that I referenced made was that even though some of the groups like African Americans and women, even though they were talked bad about in the media, in modern times it's decreasing and decreasing and decreasing. But this article was saying Native Americans negative portrayal is kind of quote unquote frozen in time, and that they're still being looked down upon. This article was also talking about how certain media outlets would in a way portray them positively, like classifying the Native American women as princesses, but it was still, I think the term that the article used, it was still a constrained image of that group. So it wasn't what the Native American women said about themselves. It was always the things that were in the media was always what the dominant group had to say about the Native American people, and that constraint um, made the media a tool for psychological dominance and a way to keep the Native American culture from progressing. Um, because we get a lot of our information from the media and even entertainment media, it's important to have media literacy. Um, in my presentation, I view media literacy as knowing about all the messages that the author is trying to send. So, for instance, if you see a news report about a group of people who committed a horrible violent act, that the one message from the author could be simply to inform you about what happened, but there could be subliminal messages that play on your subconscious through maybe sounds and noises that you weren't consciously aware of that um, influence your perception of this group. So media literacy is about all emphasis on all the messages that the author is trying to send. So like I say, in that news scenario that I just talked about, yes, to inform could be one message, but another message, it could be to persuade you to look down on this group of people and saying that, you know, you guys are bad, you guys are violent, and you guys are destroying families and destroying people. So, you know, media literacy is about knowing about all those, all the messages. And another element, how I view media literacy is knowledge of how humans have a tendency to react to negative information. A person must know that humans kind of feed off negativity and feed off negative information. They like taking and run with it, but realize that when you are consuming media, that you have to kind of, so to speak, take it with a grain of salt and look at it for what it is. In that same scenario, it wouldn't be wise to conclude that that group of people at all, let's say it was a group called Group A. So anytime I see a Group A person out in society, I say they're all violent. That is not, that's not a wise conclusion, because you really don't have but a single story on that group from that particular media outlet. So like I said, media literacy is all about knowing that humans have a tendency to kind of feed off negative information and kind of checking that that impulse to feed off negativity and kind of turn it around with a sober truth, saying, you know, no, this is only a single story. This is an incomplete one-sided story of those group of people. In another article we talked about, I think it was called From We and They to Us. I'm not sure. I think it, but I know it was authored by our professor. It talked about, it discussed cross-cultural awareness, and in my kind of secondary focus of my paper is that cross-cultural awareness is the key for American educators, because more than likely, or it's almost an inevitability, that you will be instructing students from diverse cultures. So American educators must realize that the media has impacted their view of other cultures, and realize that this isn't an entire story. This is only a single story and an incomplete story. Once they realize this and understand their own culturally influenced behavior and understand other cultures, once they discover and understand, you know, their own culturally influenced behavior and other cultures, they will achieve cross-cultural awareness. And when they do this, they will be able to build relationships. Like that's the first part of the ICO, and, you know, establish and maintain relationships. And they will also lessen the negative impact of culture shock. and increase productive communication, which is, quote, a key ingredient in the recipe for effective teaching. So, kind of to wrap it all up, media bias and stereotypes tell a single story of many of diverse cultures here in America. In order to forego those single stories, an American educator will have to, dive into the waters and look for the larger part of the iceberg. The underlying reasons why different cultures do what they do, and once they do this, they will be able to achieve cross-cultural awareness, and you know cross-cultural awareness paves the way for productive communication. And this is very important when it comes to educating students from diverse backgrounds, being able to effectively communicate.